Hi, I'm Pam, and I'm here with my monthly update video telling you everything that I was up to in the month of August. So I've actually got a bunch of updates for this video. August was a fairly busy month. I guested on a podcast. It's the Adventure Game Hotspot podcast, and it's all about adventure games, as you can probably tell by the title. We talked about sort of our favorite adventure games, some of my history growing up with video games, and my childhood favorites. I complained a lot about Legend of Kyrandia, and the topic at the end was about our most underrated adventure games. So if you are into adventure, and especially point and click, you can definitely find some recommendations on that podcast. I will leave a link to it in the description. Also in August, along with my friends over at the Polymedia Network, who make a bunch of great podcasts, most of which I've been a guest on at some point or another, I helped organize a 24-hour charity stream for the International Rescue Committee, which went to benefit people who are refugees from Ukraine because of the Russian invasion there. And it was a lot of fun, and it went really well. We raised over the 24 hours $3,700, which is amazing. It was above our initial goal of $3,000. I did a couple streaming slots. I played some Rayman Legends, which is one of my favorite platformers. It's just a very fun and joyous game for a couple hours. And then at midnight, Michelle and I did a sort of proto-podcast episode live where we talked about a certain wine and about all of the games and movies and podcasts and things we had been watching or playing or listening to recently. I don't think that's live anywhere, but if you're interested in seeing that episode with me and Michelle sort of podcasting live, I can find some way to get it up on the internet. But yeah, it was a really excellent stream. Everyone who participated did a really good job. There was a live episode of the Polykill podcast. Blink did some Shadow of the Colossus, there was some Spider-Man, all sorts of good stuff, and yeah, $3,700 raised for charity, which is awesome. If anyone here watched that or donated in any way, thank you so much. And lastly, last weekend was RetroWorld Expo, which is a convention I've been to a number of times, but I haven't been to since 2019, I think. Just with COVID, it was canceled. Last year, I couldn't make it, but this year, I went again with Michelle and my friend Dylan. We sort of hung out at the convention, going through the vendor floor and everything, some of the arcade games, and it was an amazing time. I met so many new people who were awesome, just hanging out in the hotel lobby, just finding people to talk to, people asking us to like, hey, come talk to us, and so meeting all kinds of YouTubers and store owners and everything that I had sort of kind of known through online stuff, but then actually getting to meet them. And then there were a bunch of people who I know from previously, but I haven't had a chance to actually see in years, so it was amazing to get to connect with everyone. Also, one thing that was particularly exciting for me is that there's a company called Big Bucks Entertainment that is always at RetroWorld doing live game shows. They do Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and Press Your Luck. And the host, Devira, is great. I've sort of kept in touch with him. And I ended up being on a celebrity championship edition of Press Your Luck along with Pixel Dan, who I've actually played against before, and Carlos and Daniel Pacina. So we played Press Your Luck. It was an incredibly dramatic game. At one point, I was at like $100,000 and the next closest people were at 50, and everything came down to one final spin, and I whammied, and I lost. So that was disappointing, but it made for a very entertaining and exciting show. I'll try to put in some footage of it, because it was just a really good time. I've always been sort of obsessed with game shows, and so anytime I get to actually play one, I very much appreciate. But yeah, RetroWorld, an amazing time. I hope to go back next year.
All right, good luck.
Come on, give me those big bucks. No whammies here. Come on, stop!
So now on to pickups, and almost everything is something I got at RetroWorld. I didn't actually get that much because I'm sort of done with collecting. Like, I feel like I have most of what I want, so I wasn't on the lookout for too many things. One NES game I did buy, though, was Legacy of the Wizard. I have not played this before, but I love Astalon from a couple years ago, and a number of people have commented how similar Astalon is to Legacy of the Wizard, so I wanted to go back and play that. So this came with both the cartridge and even the manual, which apparently will really come in handy for this game in particular. So I don't generally collect manuals, but it was in there, so happy to have that and want to check that out soon. I also met the owners of Premium Edition Games, and I got Cathedral, which they gave me as a gift, which is super nice of them. Premium Edition does premium editions of games for PlayStation and Switch, and they have a fairly small catalog right now, like maybe 6 games. I think they just did pre-orders for their newest ones. But Cathedral is a game that has sort of been on my wish list for a while. I had been waiting for it to hopefully come out on Xbox, but with this nice physical edition, I'm excited to play it. So it all comes in this nice sort of glossy box. And then inside, it comes with some goodies as well. So it has the nice sort of boxed game, so just the Switch game in a nice little box here. It comes with a soundtrack with custom art on a CD, which is pretty cool. And the thing I like the most is that it comes with a hand-drawn game guide. So I always complain about games not having manuals anymore, so they actually got someone to hand draw and write a whole game manual for the game, and they do this for all of their releases. So I thought that was really cool, getting an actual manual with a Switch game. Usually, like, you open up that little plastic case and there's absolutely nothing inside. So I think this is one of the coolest parts of the release for me. But yeah, Cathedral is a sort of Shovel Knight style Metroidvania, sort of apparently fairly difficult, but yeah, very excited to play this one. I also got some socks, because I can never have enough socks. They had this whole table, so I got some Jurassic Park, because I love my dinosaurs, and I got some Godzilla. Again, love the giant reptiles. I also got a few prints from the Renaissance, who is an amazing landscape artist. He does these beautiful landscapes that are inspired by a video game, but they're not like super overt about being video game art. They're just sort of like, depending on the painting, sort of somewhat subtly influenced. So I got a couple prints, and first we have Maniac Mansion, which I love. I love this thing. So this is very much like the sort of opening to Maniac Mansion, where you've got the house, and but yeah, everything here just looks like a sort of nice, more realistic landscape painting. That is awesome. Oh, he also goes by the Gamescape artist. I never know what to say, because I know him as the Renaissance, because I think that's what his Twitch and YouTube channels are, but he was going by the Gamescape artist, so you can probably find him either way. And then the second one I got is Shovel Knight. I really need to flatten these out so I can show you. So they've got the sort of castle in the background, and then the bonfire with the shovel here, which I just thought was really cool. He also had a giveaway going and for a painting that he was painting live at the show, and I won that. So I should have that to show you for next month's update, which was really exciting. So I'm very happy to have some more art. I just need to find somewhere to hang them and get some frames for them. Last, I saw Game Dave, who I always love talking to at these conventions, and I just got this sticker. Shut up. Oh, one thing that's not actually from from the convention, but I ordered this a long time ago. At the time of pre-orders, shipping to Canada was as much as the actual item, so my friend Bill ordered me a copy and has been holding on to it for me for a long time, and this was the first time I got to see him. It's the Hades vinyl. It's beautiful. It's such a great soundtrack. I've been listening to it so much since I got home. It's got 4, I never know what to say, discs, vinyl, records in it. And just every one of them, gorgeous artwork. There's Meg and Thanatos. Thanatos? I think that's his name. There's Hades and Zagreus. Orpheus and Eurydice and Nyx and Chaos. It's just gorgeous. The actual records themselves are this beautiful, like, smoky gray. Great soundtrack. I've been waiting for this forever. Feel like the pre-order was, I don't know, maybe 2.5 years ago that it happened. So yeah, I've been waiting a long time. It also comes with a cool map of Hades. And yeah, so now of my Supergiant games, I'm only missing the Pyre soundtrack. I totally missed out on that one when it released. So hopefully they repress that one at some time, because I've got all the others, and yeah, just really excited to finally have this in my hands. Alright, so now on to what I've been playing. I finished fewer games than normal in August. I felt like I was busy doing other things a lot of the time, but there are still some things. I finished Gabriel Knight 2 on stream, which you've probably noticed based on the stream highlights I posted not too long ago. If you want to see me being overly thirsty and yelling at everyone to kiss, go check out that video. Gabriel Knight is a fantastic game. I'm actually planning to do a proper review of it sometime this month, so I won't say a whole lot more of it, but it was a really fun game to stream. I think out of all the games I've streamed on Twitch, I had the most fun with that one, and it also drew the biggest audience, so that was cool. Another game I played was called Ravenous Devils, and this is the kind of game that's sort of like catnip to me, where it's just like management simmy with like a dark spin. So you play a tailor and his wife, a cook, who own a bakery or / tailor shop on the top, and it's basically like Sweeney Todd, and the tailor sees clients, murders them, sends them down to the basement, and the wife cooks them into pies and sells the pies to the customers. So it's basically just managing both of these characters, so you have to not only kill the people, but also tailor things to sell in the shop, and then you have to butcher the people and cook them into different kinds of meals and use different recipes in order to cook. And then eventually the tailor gets a garden where he can grow things to help make more recipes. So you're basically doing that. There's a story to sort of guide you along. The story's fairly minimal. The game was just okay. I did play it rather fanatically until I finished, but again, it's just because that's like the perfect game that just sort of like grabs me and doesn't let go until I finish it. But actually looking back on the experience, there were definitely some problems. I often felt like upstairs at the tailor, he barely had anything to do. Meanwhile, the wife downstairs was just running herself ragged, trying to butcher all these bodies and cook all these things and send food up in order to be sold. So I felt like there was definitely a little bit of a balance issue. And even though as you go, you get more money, you can get more equipment and more recipes, the gameplay doesn't evolve all that much. So it sort of hits its peak fairly early on, and then it just feels like you're kind of going through the motions until the end of the game. But it was alright. I enjoyed the time I had with it. If you like that kind of game, you'll probably get some enjoyment out of it too, but it's not one that I would recommend to anybody. I also played through Cult of the Lamb, which is something that I was anticipating ever since I saw the announcement. In this, you play a sacrificial lamb who gets sacrificed to a god, and then another god called the One Who Waits sort of resurrects you and tells you to build a cult in his name and kill all of the false gods. So this is a sort of a combination between one of those sort of sim-like manage the cult, keep everybody fed, build a little town, with a roguelike dungeon crawler. And I think it was cool. I think the aesthetic of the game is probably the best part of it. All the little creatures are incredibly cute, even while they're doing terrible things and like sacrificing to tentacle monsters and things like that. Neither side of the game works that well. Like it's functional, but it's a little bit shallow on both ends. But it's the fact that you're doing both and sort of switching between them sort of kept my interest up more than it would otherwise. Like, I think if it had been just the sim part or just the dungeon crawling, it wouldn't have worked. I would have gotten pretty bored. But yeah, just switching made sure I was keeping my interest, and occasionally you would open like a new area or open up a mini game, which was cool. Again, not particularly balanced. I found the beginning of the game, I was sort of running myself ragged in the town, trying to keep everyone happy. And at the end of the game, I didn't really have to do much at all. So I was just going in the dungeon over and over again. Same with the dungeon crawling. It's not that deep. There are a few different weapons that you can choose from, but the combat is fairly samey no matter what you do. But I still enjoyed my time with it. Again, I played through it pretty consistently over a few days until I beat the game, so I had a good time with it. But yeah, there were definitely some areas where improvements could be made to the game, especially in the town building. I often felt like the upgrades that I was getting, it didn't really matter what I was picking, and there were a lot of mechanics that I just totally ignored, like making my town prettier, don't care about it, didn't seem to make any difference. You can go around and like bless every single one of your cultists at a time, which again, like just seemed like a giant time suck for me, so I ignored that part of it, and I never really had any issues. But a fun game, a very cute game. I hope in the future this developer can like sort of tweak some things and learn from things and like make a really good one of these, because I feel like that's a possibility. My Wednesday co-op group finished playing Strange Brigade in August, which we had a pretty good time with. It is a third-person cooperative shooter where you play a bunch of adventurers in the 1930s, going to various locales to find treasure. And this, I think it's made by the same people who did Zombie Army, which we really liked, at least Zombie Army 4 we really liked. And it's similar to that, so you get, a few different weapons, a few different magic spells to use. What I really liked about it is that there were all sorts of puzzles around. I mean, they weren't the most complicated puzzles, but some like tile matching or having to find symbols around the level and then sort of enter a code in order to open a vault. There were cats around, and you had to not real cats, like cat statues, and you had to shoot the cat statues, and if you got all of them in the level, that would open up extra treasure. There were little areas where they tried to jump scare you, where like a mummy popped up from the ground, and it wasn't scary, but it was kind of funny, and I liked that. Various enemies like mummies and minotaurs and a sort of humorous narrator going all the way through. It was fun. We played through the whole game and I think all of the DLC that was available. And yeah, the actual shooting mechanics, I would say, are just okay. Some enemies were rather bullet spongy and took a little too long to kill, but just the fact that there were all those extras with like the puzzles and the treasures and the upgrades and things made it a lot of fun. I also played through all of Stray in August. I played through the beginning couple hours on stream on the first day it came out, just sort of did an impromptu Stray stream, and people seemed to enjoy that. I think Stray is very cute. I think it's at its best. Oh, if you don't know what it is, it's the cat backpack game where you play a cat in a sort of dystopic kind of world surrounded by robots, and you're, doing cat things. And I think the game is at its best when it's like, oh, look at the kitty's cute. Like, when you first get the little backpack, you have a little robot friend who makes you a backpack that can do all kinds of new things, and the cat's just immediately like, oh, what have you put on my back? I can't stand this. It weighs 1,000 pounds. And it's like, oh yeah, a cat would do that. Like when you put on a harness or something on them. So when they do that, or when they like jump onto a robot and curl up and like go to sleep, or they like scratch at doors and things. In terms of the actual story and gameplay, I thought it was just okay. You're mostly going around just looking for contextual button prompts in order to jump across places. I don't particularly have a problem that it's not more of a free roaming thing, because it would be weird if the cat could miss jumps and things. So having it so that you always make the jump kind of makes sense for being a cat. But the gameplay, I don't know, it wasn't that long, but it did sort of outstay its welcome. There's some little stealth bits and some chase bits where some things are chasing you. And overall, I had a pretty good time with it. Again, when it's about the cat being a cute cat, that's when it was the best. But yeah, it was a cute game. And the last game I actually finished is Immortality, which is another one I was greatly anticipating this year. It's the newest one by Sam Barlow and his new company Half Mermaid. They made Her Story, which I absolutely loved, and they made Telling Lies, which I didn't think was good at all. So Immortality, I wasn't quite sure what to expect, and it ended up working very well. It's an FMV game where you're going through a whole bunch of movie clips. So it's like Her Story, except much grander in scope. The conceit of it is that there's this actress, Marissa Marcel, who starred in 3 movies and was set to be the next big thing, but none of the 3 movies ever actually released. And after the 3rd one, she just sort of disappeared and was never heard of again. So you're trying to figure out sort of what happened to her, why didn't these movies release? So you go and you have access to basically all of the clips of all of the footage that she's ever been in. So you start with one clip, and then you take match cuts. So you can pick an item, like it can be the opening slate to before the director calls action. It can be someone's face. It can be a chair or a cup of coffee, and it'll sort of match cut and then open up another bit of footage that you can watch. So you're going through all this footage, and it's all really well done. There's 3 movies that you get footage from, as well as sort of some of the behind the scenes and rehearsal things. The atmosphere is just a little bit uncomfortable and weird. As you go through these movies, the first few clips show you sort of what it's about, and then you can open up a later clip and think, wow, how did it take a turn and get there? And then you see the behind the scenes and find out sort of like the relationships between the actors and the directors and what's going on. And it's all very compelling. The movies are interesting. They're very much influenced by there's like a late 60s, like Italian sort of semi, religious, but also kind of sexual exploitation flick. There's like a sort of crime noir-y kind of one, and then a later movie set, I think in 1990 or 89 or something. And all of the movies are good. All of the performances are really excellent. And as you go, you just sort of start to get this like creeping feeling about like there's something else going on here. I enjoyed my time with it a lot. I do have one big issue with it. 2 issues. One big issue, one small issue. The big issue is that I got to sort of the end. I got the credits. I found out what happened to the actress. I still don't know why it happened or what led up to it happening to the actress. So I do want to see more. Like, there's clips I obviously haven't opened up, both in the movies and in the behind the scenes thing, that I want to see more of. But once you've opened up a certain amount, finding new clips just gets incredibly tedious. And I'm just finding myself like not even watching the clips, just like clicking on things all the time, hoping something will open up something new. So that just gets very tedious, and it's making me not want to play anymore, which I think is fine. Like, maybe I'm not going to get the full explanation for things, which I'll just have to deal with. But yeah, it starts out amazingly, but then when it comes to like really trying to complete the game is kind of fighting you on that and maybe not wanting you to do it. My other problem is that some of the wigs in this take me right out. Like, they're some of the worst wigs I've ever seen. I wish they had dedicated a little more of the budget to making people better wigs, because some of them they're real bad, and they take me right out of the scenes. But Immortality is very good. If you like a FMV sort of very open kind of mystery, just like doing your own thing, figuring things out for yourself, I definitely do recommend it. It just might not get to the point where you're able to like complete it 100% without a lot of tedium and frustration. And lastly, I just wanted to talk about a couple games that I retired. A couple of them were actually from last month, which I cut out of the video for some reason. I thought it was getting too long. This month, my co-op group tried playing Lara Croft and the Tomb of Osiris, and we ended up giving up on it because it was very buggy. It's a 4-player co-op game in a sort of isometric perspective where you're going around these tombs. Different characters have different abilities, so like Lara has a grapple and she can light torches, while other characters have like a magic ability that can set off things and like raise platforms. So you have to work together to get through these levels. And it was all right. Like, it was pretty fun for the most part, other than some somewhat strange controls, but it just kept bugging out on us. Like, the camera would just get stuck somewhere, so we couldn't move forward, or someone would be lost, or someone would just like glitch out and everyone would think they were way back there when they actually thought that they were with us. We've had a couple crashing issues, and it just got to the point where it was more frustrating than fun to play, so we gave up on that one after 1 or 2 sessions. Also, last month I started playing Souldiers, which is another one that I played on stream to start out with. And as I started playing it, I really liked it. I found the first dungeon was pretty good. This is a pixel-based Metroidvania where you can pick between 3 different classes. I played just the regular warrior class, and you're sort of going through dungeons, and you've got little side quests and things. You can level yourself up. And the first dungeon was good. It was a decent difficulty. It was a decent length, and I was having a lot of fun with it. And then I got out of the dungeon into the open area, and I started feeling it a little less. Like, a lot of the enemies would have shells or things on them, and you'd have to wait to attack. And then I got into the next dungeon, and I just completely fell off it. It was really tedious. The checkpoints were so far away from each other. Every single minor little enemy took so long to kill. Like, you can dodge and parry and block, and they could dodge and parry and block. And like, I don't want a Dark Souls fight for every single mob in a dungeon. And it just got sort of confusing to get through, and just, I think the biggest issue was just the enemies taking so long to defeat. So I ended up giving up on Souldiers, and apparently it's quite a long game as well. So it's kind of sad, because I did think that first dungeon was quite good, but the second dungeon just like turned me right off the game, so I stopped playing. And lastly, I've sort of given up on Rogue Legacy 2, which is a game that I was enjoying for a while. You sort of delve into a dungeon, get as far as you can, collect some experience or gold, die, go back to your castle, level it up, and make yourself stronger in some way. So it's that kind of like progressive roguelite game. And I was enjoying it for a while, and it just got to the point where, I don't know, I'm in like the 4th level or 5th level, and I just got kind of tired of playing it. Got tired of going back into the dungeon. The newest area I opened up is a little bit annoying as far as the platforming goes, and I don't know, I just felt like the enjoyment I was getting in the first few hours just sort of started to wane the more and more I played it. So I've kind of given up on Rogue Legacy. Like, I still think it's a decent game. Like, it controls nicely, it plays nicely, some of the upgrades are pretty cool, but I just sort of stopped liking it. So maybe in a few months I'll go back to it again with sort of fresher eyes, but for now I have retired Rogue Legacy too. Okay, so that was my update for August. Leave me a comment to let me know if you've been playing anything good that you want to recommend, or if you got any interesting pickups. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.